when you learn the protocols of how you source energy from the above, you talked about the above, but the earth, the ground is more important, because if you're not tethered to the earth, if you don't know how to ground your own energy, then you can't hold it. There's no container for the energy to hold. So you can start receiving a lot of cosmic downloads, which is what I was doing and what many people do, but then it generally turns to like a spiritual crisis can easily happen. It can dissipate. It can make you feel flighty or messianic. Like a lot of people think, like they start receiving so much light and then they just want to like change everyone and push it onto everyone, or they think they're higher and mightier than everyone else. The grounding is where we actually contain it.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. I am your host, Bernie Beitman. I'm a psychiatrist. I study meaningful coincidences and write about them and stuff like that. I have this podcast, and Psychology Today hosts on the subject. And I'm the president and founder of the Coincidence Project, which is dedicated to increasing awareness of meaningful coincidences in your daily life, in our daily life, in everyone's daily life. You, our viewers and listeners, probably recognize them in your life. Synchronicities illuminate the invisible currents that connect and unify us. Recruiting board members for the Coincidence Project meant finding people who lived synchronicity and serendipity, who recognize their value and want others to know about them. Our guest today is a member of the Coincidence Project board, and as you will see, she lives synchronicity. Her name is Aeon Karris. She's a leading transformational facilitator, a leadership consultant, and a master mystic. She's the founding director of Know Thyself, a mystery school for modern day living, and the founder of the Leadership Project. For nearly 30 years, she's been a visionary of evolutionary consciousness, seeding new businesses, initiatives, and eco-communities to protect our future. Her extensive client list includes leading corporations, economists, elite businessmen, and women, royals, and spiritual leaders in India, Japan, and the US. She's the author of Synchronicity, Unlock Your Divine Destiny. I wrote the foreword for that, and it's a really good read, and that's part of the reason we're here, is for Aeon to let you meet her if you haven't met her, and get tuned into her book, Synchronicity, Unlock Your Divine Destiny. And with that, the synchronicity method, as we will talk about, which she has invented. So welcome to the show. It's good to see you, Aeon. I just saw you yesterday at the board meeting, and here you are.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, Bernie.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So please tell us a coincidence story.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you know, I have many. But recently, a few months ago, I was leading a transformational retreat for women in the Mayan Riviera, where I've been based the last 5 years, and brought together a group of 7 women we were working on womb clearing and working with the sacred waters of the cenotes in the Mayan Riviera. So it was a very deep and transformational retreat, and all of us had to face our fears and sort of overcome different obstacles, and just had a beautiful time. But it was very powerful. And what had come up for me was that I was facing a fear of this world tour that I was embarking on, not sure like where it was going to lead me, what was going to be the next step. I just knew that I had to take this leap and make this declaration that I was going to travel for a year doing this synchro tour, what I'm calling the synchronicity tour, and just follow sort of the breadcrumbs of spirit, because I know that when I do that, spirit's unlocking something much more powerful than what I can create. So I'm being asked to do this world tour, like a book tour, but from a different perspective, not from my logical mind, not planning out every step of the way, which for a Virgo is quite difficult to do. So I was like, okay. And I was telling the ladies, wow, I'm nervous about it, because I knew when the retreat ended, I only had about another 2 or 3 weeks in Mexico before the tour started. And I had no idea where I was going. And so I was facing my fear, even though I was leading the retreat, and I was sharing about it. And then just after the retreat, all the women went home and I was alone. And I was like, okay, Spirit, where am I supposed to go? And I had this really interesting dream. So it was a very lucid dream. And I was staying in apartment complex. I was on the third floor. And in the dream, I saw a bear. Well, those dreams where you're not sure if you're awake or dreaming because it's so realistic. So I was seeing the empty lot next to the apartment complex, but there was a black bear with a white tuft here. It was very clear. So then I knew it's a black Asian bear. It's like, what is it doing here? We don't have bears in Playa del Carmen. So there's this black bear roaming in the lot next to me, coming for me. And I know it's coming towards me, but I felt this sense of peace. And then it climbed up into this small tree that's planted there, and it went out on the limb, and it's trying to sleep on the limb, but the limb just went ooh, and kind of bent all the way down. And I startled awake because I felt like, oh my God, the tree's gonna break or the bear's gonna hit the ground. I don't know which I was more concerned about. Of course, neither happened. It was just hovering above, like 1 foot above the ground, this huge bear in this small tree. And when I woke up, it was like, wow, what was that? And I looked out the window and I could see the tree there, and the branch was all bent down. But of course, there was no bear in the tree. But, being someone who pays attention to my dreams, I was looking up, the meaning for the black Asian bear and what is it about? And I just got this sense that, the bear represents, power and resilience. And it's a symbol in shamanism for protection, and a lot of shamanic people use the bear medicine to work with them as they're going into like perilous times, or when they're doing soul retrieval work. So I felt this kinship with it, like, oh wow, the bear is really with me right now, and it's with me on this journey. But more importantly, I just felt this sense of all my anxiety about the trip just stopped. I felt like I'm going to be traveling the world like the bear. The bear was in a foreign country. It doesn't belong in Mexico, but yet it was completely at home with itself. And it was flexible and fierce and confident and just roaming about. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take this bear medicine with me. A few weeks after the dream, I had an opportunity that arose out of nowhere to be in Chicago for a month. And the other thing I knew about that bear dream was that I'm probably going to go somewhere cold, that I need to be prepared for that. I've been living in the tropics for a long time. So I was like, okay, preparing for the cold. I don't know where it's going to be. But yeah, it came to Chicago. And so I arrived here, and just after arriving, I realized, this is the home of Chicago Bears. And so then I was like, okay. And I've been feeling really confident and comfortable with that bear medicine with me. So yeah.
The home of the Chicago Bears, going out on a limb. They ain't doing too well this year. So
I have no idea. I know you're a footballer.
Yes, I
I'm
am.
not.
But you knew enough to know that it's the home of the Chicago Bears. I like the way you say it. It's the home of the Chicago Bears, because that's where you needed to go. My name, Bernard, means strong as a bear.
Oh, wow. See, there you go. And it's my first interview of the World Tour series. So
Oh, this is the first one. Why don't you tell us about your world tour? I love that sound of that.
yeah, I know it sounds so fantastic. Well, as you know, I've been traveling for about 5 months already. I was in India for 3 months, Guatemala for a month, back to Mexico, and then now I'm starting the official 1 year world tour. And it came about. So I just launched the 4th edition of my book, as you wrote the foreword to, and I'm I've been I rewrote it, so that there's a lot of in here. I'll just unpack for a minute. I rewrote it because I've been teaching a certain form of meditation that I realized, as I've been teaching it the last 10 years in my mystery school, a lot of people were still not fully understanding all the different protocols and the potency of why we do the protocols and the order in which we do them. Because once we do what I'm now terming the synchronicity method, a lot of things start unlocking and unfolding, but it needs to first start with setting the frequency. So I rewrote the book to fine tune that understanding, so people have a more clear awareness. And I termed it the synchronicity method, so it stands apart from other forms of meditation and activation, so we can understand exactly why we do those protocols in that particular order. But while I was traveling in India, I had a number of synchronicities happen. I wasn't planning to go back there. I was sort of called back there as an invitation from a friend. And I was visiting my old communities, old homes, places where I lived. And I started realizing that, there were parts of me that were still left in places that I used to live because of different tragedies or situations that happened there. And as I was revisiting those places, I felt my energy coming back to me. Like, I just hit, midpoint. I'm just over 50 now. And that's a lot of years to have a adventurous life. I know you've had many more, but there's something that's happened to me in this midpoint of my life where I feel like the things that, all the businesses I started, I've had 14 different eco communities that have come and gone. Each one of the relationships I had, businesses I had, communities I had, it's like the dream is happening. And then for whatever reason, some tragedy strikes or something happens, whether it's a natural disaster or a relationship that can't be mended, or something happens and it's time to move on. But for all of those things, there's little, particles that have stuck with me that needed to be fully healed. And, because life keeps happening, you keep moving. It was feeling like things were catching up, and I needed to go back and really make sure that all these things were clear. So this world tour stemmed from, okay, I need to travel everywhere I've lived, which is, all over the world at this point, and visit the people I love and make sure that my network, my golden network, is restitched and reformed so that I can really do what I came here to do and move it, to the next level. So, and because I just relaunched the book, it seems appropriate to share it with as many people as possible. I've always been a very shy person when it comes to self-promotion and saying buy my book or, getting out there. But it feels time, and it feels like the earth is in a specific moment where we can really go in two different ways, right? With everything that's happening in the world, it's like there's so much light and there's so much darkness. And I feel that my synchronicity method really helps people navigate perilous times. So I want to share it with as many people as I can.
That's a really far out groovy reason to go out to do this world tour, which you start with personally, that you've got to go to the places where parts of you have been left so that you can help yourself resolve some of the difficulties, business-wise, relationship-wise, and perhaps even geographically wise, that have been carried with you for many years now. So that's a wonderful personal reason to go out. And then you're doing it by okay, spirit, where am I going to go next? See what happens, dreams and stuff. I mean, that's not the usual way people do tours. They map it all out and going, and especially a Virgo not doing it by mapping it out is like going against the grain,
It is.
says the Pisces talking to you. It's it's a weird thing for you to be doing, but you know how to do that too because you followed your own intuition. You followed the synchronicities that have led you places. So it's not terribly different for you, but still a little.
Well, the difference is that um, I don't like to not know where I'm going to be in a couple weeks' time.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right.
So normally I keep a base, I keep a home base, and I travel as I'm invited or as things open up. I have released my home base. I put my stuff in storage and I am literally on the road. So it's a totally, I haven't done anything like this since maybe in my 30s, I did it for about 9 months. And it was I did it as an experiment to see if I could live off like barter and trade. I was working with the community modeling that I was planning, and I was like, I'm just going to move from community to community and see how this unfolds. After 9 months, I hated it. I didn't really enjoy the process at all. And after that, I swore, oh, I'm never going to do that again. Well, never say that, right? Because you don't know. And the only other time I did it was when I was 19 as a backpacker, around the world. And that was fun, but I knew it was for a time period, right? And I was young and I didn't have the, needs and things that I have now. Now it's interesting. So I was placed in Chicago. I never been to Chicago before. So I came here, I had this month-long beautiful penthouse that's been gifted to me for the month to stay. And I was thinking, oh, okay, well, I have an old student who lives in Chicago, is based. He's my only contact. He's like a brother for me and soul family. So he's here. There's been all this synchronicity about us needing to be near each other at this time. He was going through some hard things, and my presence and in his life has been helpful, as is his and mine. And then I realized I'm only 2 hours away from Wisconsin, from a community that I started 12 years ago, which I haven't been back in this area since I started the community. And it's called the Bridget Center. And they're in Wisconsin. I called them up and I'm like, hey, you guys, I'm in Chicago. And there's just been this amazing reconnection with them. And when they invited me to Wisconsin 12 years back to start the community with them, I knew it wasn't going to be a place that I would live because I had never been to Wisconsin. There was nothing calling me to that geographical area except the project, which I helped and got off the ground, and they've carried on for 12 years. And now 12 years later, they're thriving and they're there. So my next stop, I know, is Wisconsin. But so like it's spirit is directing. And I know when spirit directs my life, it is so much better than when I direct my life. When I direct my life, I'm sort of like, clenching to like what is going to help me feel safe, secure, or comfortable, which isn't at all what, spirit pushes me to the edge of my comfort zone and then gives me something I couldn't have imagined. And I know that to be true from all the synchronicities that have happened. Even when I was in India, so many synchronicities unfolded. And they just continue to do that when I trust, when I surrender my own will to that invisible hand and that magic that's trying to find me if I don't keep blocking it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to be able to do something like channel love into me and then out my heart. And it's a discipline I just started recently, and it's a discipline to be able to feel love and not hold it in, which I was doing, but being able to like send it out. And that's my way of doing what you're talking about right now, is letting something come through me from someplace else, or some other something.
Well, that's part of the synchronicity method.
Uh, What, what was I going to ask you right there? Why don't you tell us about the synchronicity method?
Yeah. Um, so I started meditating in 1998. My first spiritual teacher was a physicist from Japan, um, Dr. Yamada. And he was tuning me to the frequency of love through psychotronic devices that he had created, 0 point energy devices. And so I spent many years, 5 years, like apprenticing under him as a trainer or a tuner of frequency. And he's someone who brought transcendental meditation to Japan in the 60s. He lived in India for a long time and followed Ramana Maharishi's work. And so I met him at a stage in my life where I was in tech and running tech companies. And that meditation really started opening things to me. And then him and my father, they both died 2 weeks apart in 2003. And when they died, I had a big spiritual awakening. And they both spoke to me from beyond the grave. And my meditation practice shifted completely. And I had this experience of turning, basically embodying my soul into my body. And I had been traveling all over the world looking for teachers and mentors and guides since his death, to help me understand what doors I was opening of perception that were quite large and scary and blowing my mind at every turn. And I had a number of physicists in my life who could explain it from a perspective of quantum physics, which was great. I had shamans who were helping me navigate those mysterious realms, mystics, tantrics. But there was something that none of them could teach me, which was a level of protection against darker forces that were following me since childhood and sort of brought me to Yamada in the first place. But I was being pushed and pushed and pushed with some phenomena that was very difficult to navigate. And after my teacher's passing, I was in Tokyo, actually house sitting his house while his wife was on tour. She's a musician. And I had this incredible experience. Now, I had been meditating. I meditated for 5 years, almost 8 hours a day. I was in deep, deep training through interdimensional realities, getting a lot of shamanic initiations about how to pass through different levels of awakening experience, hence why I'm a master mystic. And in that day that I was in Yamada's house, I had this experience of how to protect my soul and my entity from all darker energies in one specific way of awakening my what I call the star seed or the codex. From that point, I started gaining more and more power, and I was able to hold the awakenings that was happening to me. So what happens when you awaken more of your soul wisdom is if you have traumas or places in your system that are unconscious, there's like holes, and you start leaking out energy. So you can't totally contain your like Buddha nature or your illuminated self. And so that was happening to me. I would reach really high states of awakening, but I couldn't hold it in my physical frame because of the tragedies and issues, not just from this lifetime, but past lifetimes. So I started healing that. And I started to teach this method because it was the one protocol that was not taught to me in any school I went to. And it was the one protocol that keeps everyone safe and also keeps your own power in ethical balance. And without your power being ethical, you continue this wheel of karma. You continue to misuse your energy. So my synchronicity method is that one protocol that was never taught to me. And I base all my teachings in my mystery school on that foundation. So until you learn the actual method and learn to master your own frequency, it's quite dangerous to open to other levels of dimensions of reality, because you don't have yourself fully formed.
This phrase, master your own frequency. I'm working with somebody with a psychology for a Psychology Today post where we are talking about frequency. What is frequency, and what is it that is a personal frequency? That is my frequency. That is your frequency. Well, I'd like to know more about what that means to you and what you mean by it, because mastering your own frequency means having some understanding of the idea of having your own frequency. I call it an energy symbol, or like an energy fingerprint of yourself. It's like something that's your particular marker. But would you explain that as part of what we need to learn to master? You've made it clear that if you've got traumas around, you can leak when you get divine love coming through to you. As you get higher and higher, it still leaks out. You've made that clear, but what do you mean by personal frequency?
Yeah, I like that you called it a fingerprint or something, because it is very unique to each one of us. And to go back to your practice of coming through the heart, it is the emanation of the energy through the heart. So the heart is the frequency controller, or the tuner. Each one of us has a unique, soul imprint. And well, this is a big realm of study. So how's the most simplest way to put it? We need to ground our soul in our physical body in order to emanate our frequency. And that's very hard to do, because we've all been conditioned to live in our minds and to live outside ourselves. So when I look at someone spiritually, I can see that most people are not even in their form. They're kind of hovering up and above it. Like a lot of people have disassociation, or they're in anxiety, or they're in fear. So they could be like pushed forward in their energy bubble, or pushed to the back, or they hover above if they have a lot of trauma. They're not even able to walk through the world. The way it shows up is in our personal relationships, right? So when we're relating with others, there's a push-pull dynamic, attraction and an aversion that goes on. And when I was running all my communities, this is why I say most communities, most relationships fail, is because people don't know how to own their own frequency first. They're trying to manipulate and change everyone else instead of themselves. That's why my school is called Know the Self. And it's about self-governance and self-mastery and how to control your own frequency. Because when you learn the protocols of how you source energy from the above, you talked about the above, but the earth, the ground is more important, because if you're not tethered to the earth, if you don't know how to ground your own energy, then you can't hold it. There's no container for the energy to hold. So you can start receiving a lot of cosmic downloads, which is what I was doing and what many people do. But then it generally turns to like a spiritual crisis can easily happen. It can dissipate. It can make you feel flighty or messianic. Like a lot of people think, like they start receiving so much light and then they just want to like change everyone and push it onto everyone, or they think they're higher and mightier than everyone else. The grounding is where we actually contain it. And so the unique frequency part is when you're able to be perfectly poised between the heavens and the earth, fully contained within your own sphere, and mastering that, not pushing and pulling. And this is something that, mind you, there's very few people on the planet who've ever mastered this. This is an ideal state. And what I believe and what I share in the book is I feel it only takes 12 of us to hold that frequency for a very short period of time, for everyone to be able to hold that frequency. And so that's been my mission, is to sit with people to tune the frequency, tune the frequency, tune the frequency, because there's a the morphic resonance that happens when we hit coherence, when our hearts hit coherence, when we're able to fully just connect as love, as entities of love, as entities of beingness, and we start resonating together in our completeness, in our wholeness, not in a way of like trying to source energy from you. When we can do that, we really shift the experience of reality. I've had it in small groups. I haven't reached 12 yet, but that is my goal, and why I'm traveling right now to people, because I know with COVID, it was interesting. We all had to be isolated for some time, and there was a beauty in that, but we also lost human connection. Like, a lot of people did a lot of self-development work. People had to sit with themselves, had to sit with their own fears, and face the fear of mortality, which is a big one for a lot of people. And now we're at this level. Okay, the consciousness has risen. People are getting more emotionally intelligent, and we've lacked connection. So now we need to, like, how do we reconnect from a place of wholeness, as frequency, not as I need this from you, or as our human self, but as our spiritual selves.
Oh, of course, I agree with you, and we've got to do something now, and it starts with doing something with ourselves. It also involves doing something interpersonally, which you are alluding to in a couple of different ways, not to get energy from another person for yourself, but I do get energy from other people. When I dance with somebody, for example, or in the dance, there's energy to be had, but it's not that I'm trying to grab it. It's there that I can accept it or become part of it. So it's not like I'm trying to take it from somebody like an energy vampire. So there's that. And there's also the trying to make the other person into something that you want that person to be, which you're already alluding to, and that you've got to be contained within yourself. And everything that you're saying to me is about frequency is, I translate that into being able to hold higher and higher levels of love or divine feeling without bursting and without being going through you. But what I found was that recently, being able to experience divine love was like overwhelming for my body. It was like I couldn't contain it, and it didn't leak out. It was like in there. So that's when I learned that no, maybe what you should do is like take it and go out your heart, and maybe imagine somebody that it can go to, and that way I can manage it, which is a little different from what I heard you saying.
Yes, there's another part to that, but that's beautiful. And I like that you've figured that out, that you need to, you have when you're that full and you have that much of it, that is the exact moment where you can share it through the heart. Then it's pure when it's coming through the heart. The other piece is the grounding. If you're not grounding your container, receiving that much light can lead to a lot of issues. It can lead to mania and a manic. You see a lot of psychological problems when people have too much light and not enough grounding. So there's a controlled balance, right? We need to, and that's what the synchronicity method is. It's like you sitting in the center of your cockpit, understanding how to navigate and manage all these different flows, really using the other sensory awareness that we have to clean and clear. There's a spiritual hygiene that needs to happen. Most people aren't aware of what's happening in the invisible space around them. They're just focused on like their emotions or their thoughts, maybe a spiritual sensation, but they're not aware that they actually are responsible for the space around their physical body. And that space is the information field, right? The morphogenetic field that's around our physical space that makes up our spiritual anatomy. And that is our responsibility. In fact, that's the only thing that we're responsible for. And within that space around us, we can manage everything in our lives. All our relationships are manageable from inside of us, not outside of us. So if we're having a conflict with somebody, to sit silently in a meditative posture, sourcing your energy, having that soul to soul connection with the other person, really understanding, like, are you pulling or pushing? Because the energy vampire thing has a negative connotation. Of course, we don't like energy vampires, right? We know when someone drains us of energy or when someone's giving us energy. But there's a lot of unconscious things we're doing that until we become conscious, we can't learn to control it. Because we all have energy tentacles that reach out in the horizontal plane and try to stabilize us. And that's consumerism, that's life in this world, right? Like trying to make ends meet, the financial currency, all that stuff is the horizontal plane, but that's not where true energy comes from, source energy. So if we don't know how to source our energy, then we can't shift our own frequency. We might be, the frequency that we're emanating can be of a lower nature, often, or is skewed and distorted, like 20 stations running simultaneously. That's what most people look like to me. They look like 1,000 radio stations going at the same time without a clear channel. So that's what I'm hoping to help people do, is to find that alignment.
As I listen to you, I think I hear now you're talking about your basic frequency or your ideal frequency, that one that is yours, because we're vibrating at at lower levels often of frequency, or it could be too high also, as you're suggesting. Yeah. But find the one that's yours and have your feet on the ground as you're doing it, be connected to the earth in some way that works for you, so that you're able to find, by that being in between, just what's your frequency. And that frequency is the one that you can go out into the world with and have a positive effect by having your energy boundary be one you master, and that can influence in positive ways the people you come into.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like if we look at nature, animals or trees, they emanate frequency, right?
Yeah.
A pure frequency, because they just are. They're just being.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about paying the bills and the stress and the kids and the this and the that, and right. They're just emanating. And we feel so good when we are in their presence, because suddenly we remember our nature, our original nature. And that's what I believe, like, our human operating system is going through a massive upgrade right now. And we need to upgrade our human OS if we are to surpass the challenges that we're faced with right now. We cannot face the challenges we're dealing with right now with the same, operating system that created it, right? Like we can't face the war in the Middle East with the same people who created it. It's just not possible. It needs to be from a higher frequency if we really want to come back to a place of where all beings are sacred. All beings have a right to exist. All beings have a right to thrive. And all beings are love. Like, can we come back to our original nature and create an incredible universe for all beings? That would be amazing. We have that potential. We have the possibility. The knowledge is there. AI is helping us, right? Like we can use it in a helpful way. Why aren't we using it for that? Why are we using it for more power, more greed, more control, more monopolizing of resources? No, why don't we use it to like solve the serious crisis that we're all dealing with, of like a right to exist and a right to thrive? So I feel like my synchro tour is like this at a mission, right? Of just
Yeah, I
going
mean,
around and being like, let's just be, let's just vibrate together. What magic can happen? And then the action can be more from a place of love, from a place of purity.
yeah, the passion you've got right there. I mean, I know you have it, but I felt it much more than I had before. I was like, we can do this, and we don't have to do it there. We can do, and the doing this that you're talking about, the synchronicity method that's in your book. Do you have the book there with you?
Um, I do it. It's downstairs.
Okay.
I'll go
Because
grab
you
it.
usually show it. I
Yeah,
can.
I want to show it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to. We're gonna have you be able to show it in just a minute. Um, it's it's um it's it's a we should see it, but in that book is the synchronicity method, and that's part of what we're talking about here, being able to find your own frequency. The so the synchronicity method is contained in this book, Synchronicity. Well, why don't you tell us what the title is?
Yeah. Synchronicity, unlock your divine destiny.
Synchronicity unlocked. What does unlocked mean?
So the symbol on the cover really shows what the soul looks like when it's unlocked. So this is the container around our physical space, our morphogenetic field. And when we unlock the soul wisdom in the center, which I call the codex or the star seed, we start emanating a frequency when we're sourcing directly from the above and the below. When we're fully grounded, then we're contained, and then we start to resonate in this frequency, and all this energy is what's inside. This is our sphere to manage, all the different emotions, energy, information that comes into our field. Then this is our responsibility, nothing outside of it. So the black space represents everyone else. That's none of your business, right? Like if we could focus here, we could change the world. If everybody was walking around energetically looking like this and sourcing energy like this, we would have a very different experience of reality. I got excited.
So, the synchronicity method that's described in your book, that's part of what you teach people, is being able to manage your own energy in that's in you, the information and energy that is part of you and is coming through you, rather than go off in the different directions that you were talking about. What I mean, I do psychotherapy, so I'm very interested in the interpersonal part of all this. And I think my experience, and it's so important to say that we each have different experiences of this synchronicity, of this life, of how our path goes forward. That I've learned through having these experiences of divine love coming through me, that I had to go back to some high school experiences, not my mother. I've done that a bit, but some high school experiences with particularly two women that were traumatic for me, which I didn't really think about. And they were difficult. They were scary for me. What happened between us, what I thought they were doing with me, but I had something to do with it too. But I was like naive, and these things were happening, and I went back in the middle of the night, not half awake, half asleep, and relived some of those early traumas that set the stage for some other patterns that I repeated. So these things have come. My awareness of this have come from a relationship in which divine love became catalyzed in me. So that somehow was able to feel it, and that has led to this internal change, the need to keep to look at the traumas that I had to be able to keep going. So that's where I'm looking at how interpersonal seems to, at least as I walk through this life, have some bearing on healing those traumas that have you leak or can have you become manic. So where does interpersonal fit for you?
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because in order to get the star seed woke in the center, the codex illuminated and held like that, or the moment you do it, you have to bring into alignment everything that got us skewed. So throughout our life, we have situations and issues, deaths in our family, losses, love stories, whatever, that start eschewing or distorting our original uh, energy of love, of connection, of whatever, and it creates a trauma or an imprint. And those traumas and imprints start changing the flow of energy in our body. And then if they're not addressed or they're very strong, they then create disease, which then creates, illness, right? I mean, dis-ease, right, in the body. Your energy can't flow properly, and that is the reason why we get sick. When we start bringing in divine love, we begin to heal all the places, all the highways of light, the nadis in the body that carry the light through, start opening up when we bring in more divine light. So what happens when you start getting more and more illuminated within is that you clear, like, all the things that were stuck in shadows, or it's like a hose pipe. Things get kinked up and distorted. The light passes through it. It's going to illuminate those stories. So in my retreats, I teach my unwind method. It's a physical experience of bringing more light into the body and unwinding. And you'll have a lot of visions come up of past memories where things, you got hurt, you probably forgot all about it, right? It's like, why is that random story from however many years ago just appearing now? Well, something got trapped there, an emotion got trapped. And when we unlock it and we bring more light to it, when we heal it, we get a lot more energy, and our light starts to come back. Our life force comes back, our energy comes back, and we heal ourselves. So we actually can experience deep physical healing from doing the synchronicity method and the way I'm describing it. And my unwind is like, you start getting in and in and in, and you start to realize, I'm okay. Like, I can heal this from the inside out, but it does require visiting old memory, things that get locked. And sometimes those are past lives. And that's when it gets really interesting and fascinating and can take us on wild rides.
Yeah, my what I had got triggered because the person I'm talking about was telling me about her high school difficulties of, like, being part of the in group of girls and then they kick her out. And
Mm-hmm.
that got me thinking, as we talk more details about my high school experiences. So I don't get to talk about high school experiences with people too much. And so that triggered me, hearing her being triggered by something that happened to her currently, with feeling excluded from a current group. So that's what. So I operate on an interpersonal level to come to some of the same places, it looks like, that you come, and it's worth just trying to emphasize that we each do it in in our way, but there are probably a limited number of ways to get to these old traumas that are still doing something to us, so that once you, as you so nicely said, the light shines on these kinks in the hose of your ability to flow, then you can see them and you can get to the light shining from different directions. But the important thing is you get to them. And the synchronicity method is a way that you have found that helps other people get to those traumas, to shine the light on the kinks in their light hose.
Yeah, I mean, we're working with the different koshas, the levels of the spiritual body, right? You have the physical, the emotional, the mental, the psychic, the spiritual. Um, those, you can work on your issues or your self-development from any one level. Like, if you're sick, you could go to the doctor and take, medicines to work on the physical level. You could go to an energy practitioner, a Chinese medicine doctor, and work on your chi and your flows. You could meditate. You can bring in divine light. So I'm really working at the spiritual level, which I find is the most direct way. I guess it's a bit of a shortcut for me. Like, I'm impatient because I have a lot of things I've had to clear, and I want to go to the source of it. So when I look at the source of the disease or the difficulty in my life, it's often somewhere buried in the past, whether it's my childhood or a past life, where when I unwind it and heal it there, I get immense amount of energy suddenly, and I can recalibrate much faster. So that's why I've followed this path. I never expected to to become a master mystic. I was in tech. I was very much attached to being a businesswoman, and the circumstances in my life led me in a very different direction. So that's where I found myself.
Well, what's
Today.
worthwhile, I think, for each of us, you and me, and for our viewers and listeners, is that we come in different ways to having to look at the traumas that we have to clear.
Yes. And we have to clear them if we really want to experience. And I feel like we're doing so much now, because if you look at, your parents or my parents, each generation is coming in with some baggage from the previous generation that they didn't clear, but we're getting lighter and brighter. And I mean, I look at some of the young people today and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, when they become leaders, we're going to be in really great shape, because there's such, illuminated masters at young ages that it's inspiring. And that's what gives me hope, right? Otherwise, sometimes it can look very hopeless in what we see going on in the world. Like, to me, to have a world war happening now, the way it's happening, it just seems ridiculous. Like, how are we're way too intelligent for this kind of fighting, aren't we? I mean, don't we have way more solutions than resulting to violence and terror? It just seems strange to me that we can't come together and figure this out in a more mature way.
That's a view I've heard, not only from people here, but people who come from other galaxies, other planets, looking at Earthlings and saying just what you just said.
It's barbaric.
It's stupid.
It is. It's just
absolutely
complete
stupid.
ignorance.
We could have a
It's
lot more fun.
childish. Yeah.
It's awful. It doesn't have to be, and we can talk about that. But the most important thing is, there's bad things, but what can we do about them? And you are part of a increasing number of people, of which I am a part too, of trying to be able to do something that will stop this insanity. I'll call it just plain stupid it's like it says it's Cro-Magnon male doing this kind of stuff. We don't have to. It's going to be a lot more fun for everybody, including you, if you don't have to keep beating up on people. So we know that you're there, I'm there in the process of trying to bring divine love into people's lives and be able to dance and have a good time. And you and learn, and you are too. So we're coming to the end of our time, Ion, and please hold up your book again and let people know what the title is. Unlock your divine unlock your divine destiny, unlock your divine destiny, which means that you have a divine destiny. All us listeners and viewers here, you have something you got to do. You heard what Ion is up to. She's trying to do what I'm trying to do in her own ways, to use what she knows and what she's experienced to be able to help all of us not go down off the cliff that we seem to be headed towards. And in her book, Synchronicity, Unlock Your Divine Destiny, is the synchronicity method. But how can people actually be in contact with you, because you don't know where you're going? next. I mean, to be
Oh
in your
yeah,
presence.
no, yeah, please follow my tour. And if I'm end up in your area, I would love to meet everyone in person and when we do the synchronicity method in person, we can also do it online. You can get a free version of it on my website now. If you go to the synchronicitybook.com, you can download the synchronicity method there. But when we do the method in person, we reach these high elevated states of cosmic connection, cosmic love. We raise our frequency in our body. Amazing things start to unlock within each one of us. So the more other people illuminate their starseed like this and start looking like this energetically, we start passing codes back and forth too, and we become those puzzle pieces that fit together that really help to illuminate this golden network, which is the creation of a new way of being. And we start to exchange, I believe each one of us carries a code for a solution that we have to an issue on the planet. So us talking, we're exchanging our views of reality and our ways that we've been able to navigate through the craziness of life. And when we bring all those together, each one of us has a unique view and a unique perspective, a unique gift. And it needs to be shared, and it needs to be connected with someone else's for it to come alive. So as I travel, I'd love to meet everyone, or whoever's connected, whoever feels called to really share from the heart in these ways. You can follow my journey on the synchronicitybook.com.
The Synchronicity book, all one word,
Yeah,
.com.
.com.
And they can follow your tour, where you're going to be next, as well as download the Synchronicity method at thecoincidencebook.com.
Yes, and soon I'm launching the collective, an online way for you to get involved and connected to this golden network of people who are doing the method and raising the frequency, so we can start sharing more rapidly. So you can look out for that. If you go to the website, you'll get information.
Final question: that each of us has a piece of the code, and that's why we got to share with each other our personal code, the one we've got, as part of the puzzle. Which I have that metaphor too. There's a puzzle. It's really an operating machine that we're talking about, not a puzzle. Something that
Yeah, it's
works.
the OS. Yes.
It
And it's not through talking an action as much as it is through frequency.
So if you get two people with different frequencies together and they connect somehow,
They have to harmonize and resonate.
they have to harmonize and resonate.
Yes. And that unlocks it
That
to the next
unlocks
octave. Yeah.
unlocks what?
That unlocks the next level of awareness to a whole other octave. So when we can be harmonic in presence of each other, breathing with each other, we heal things instantly, miracles happen, we awaken to higher levels of knowing and understanding of who we are. And that there's something very it's like what we are all longing for, our soul family coming back. We feel at home when we're with people at a spiritual level in that cosmic consciousness. It's a feeling of transcendence, right? And we're trying to ground that energy into the physical form. But first we need to continue to raise our own frequency to be able to hold that harmony within us.
Yeah.
And then when we hold it with one another too, I think it's at least 3 people. When you hold it in 3, it starts emanating exponentially. When you get to 12, I feel that we're going to shift the world. Just 12 people. I mean, why is it so hard? I mean, I've been doing this since 2000, looking for my 12. And I can tell you, people have a lot to heal. We have a lot of work we're doing.
I I have never been so aware of that than
Yeah,
recently. I've never been so aware. Everybody's got something.
that
They got to do.
everybody's got some. If you're alive on the planet, you got something. I'm sorry, nobody here is immune to this, and we heal faster together. When I've healed something inside my system, like your friend healed the high school thing, and she passed the high school healing to you. So you, by hearing her story, you got to, you know, as a therapist, the more stories you hear of and other people healing, you get healed also. You get an upgrade. So it keeps happening. And the more we upgrade, some of us who've been healing others for long periods of time, we can exponentially pass it on, like you doing the Coincidence Project, this podcast. You're exponentially reaching people because you're holding more and more of a library of health and healing and well-being within your sphere. And so when you vibrate health, healing, and well-being in those places that you've overcome darkness, then other people instantly receive that by being in your presence. You don't have to explain it to them. I mean, we write books and we do explain because our mind needs something to grasp. But honestly, we just need to be with each other. When you're in the presence of love, when you're in the presence of someone who's healed things that your system hasn't yet healed, you get blessed. You get a blessing, and we're here to bless each other. So I'm moving around the world trying to share what I've learned and also to help the collective heal faster, because I want a more beautiful world to exist in. I mean, that part's the selfish part.
Well, it's your.
I want to see something more beautiful. We're better than this, aren't we?
We
Can't we do better?
we and we will answer it as yes. Of course, we need to. We want to. Otherwise, we're gone too. There's
Yeah.
a lot. There's a lot going
There's a
on
lot
here.
at stake. Yeah.
There's a lot at stake, but there's something about the darkness gets worse and the light gets more intense. There's
Yeah.
something about that seems to be part of this thing. But leave us with one last thought or idea or feeling, and then we'll need to stop.
Well, I just encourage everyone to find that balance within themselves of the paradox between light and dark, and to shine the light in those places within them that, you know, that they've had to shroud or hide because they're afraid of what's there. Like, it's a time where we all need to look within ourselves and do that inner work. And my method is just one. For me, it's the fastest one I've found in my travels. So feel free, and it's for free. So there's nothing to lose by getting it and trying it out. And yeah, I just pray for a collective evolutionary experience of liberation. I want to
What's nice is
experience that.
you're not just praying for it. You're doing something about it by wandering around the world and trying to find harmony with other people, so you can each raise the frequency of yourselves to find the one that's yours. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Ion. It's been a
Thank you,
delight. It's been a delight talking with you. It's you tell such good stories and say them so well. And so much passion in you it's got to be touching other people as they listen. So thanks very much for being with me.
You. Thank you, Bernie, for having me.
This psychosphere is our mental atmosphere, like a hologram of cosmic consciousness.